They came at dawn, the sky screamed. Commander Elias Vorn stood at the observation deck of Relay Station K-7, hands clenched behind his back as Earth burned. The planet filled the viewport, brilliant, blue, defiant, and then it began to die. Columns of ultraviolet plasma lanced down through the clouds, carving through the atmosphere like surgical blades. From orbit, it looked like a silent light show. But Elias could hear it in his mind, every scream, every collapse, every child who wouldn't wake up tomorrow. Behind him, technicians scrambled in hushed panic. A chorus of alerts rang out across the command platform: loss of uplinks, orbital defense systems disabled, surface cities dark. He didn't move. "Sir," Lieutenant Kale said from the tactical console, "we've lost contact with New Tokyo. Confirmed thermal spike, full vaporization. Estimated death toll." "Stop," Elias said, voice cold and level. "I don't need a number for that." Kale hesitated, nodded, and turned back to the console. The station's comm line flickered, static and scrambled chatter. A single frequency burst through, faint but sharp. It was a child's voice. "Daddy?" The sound shattered him. Elias turned slowly, walking toward the console like every step cost him a piece of himself. "Record it," he said. "Every channel. I want the galaxy to hear this." The tech hesitated. "Commander, the signals." "Do it," Elias snapped. The final seconds came in fragments, his daughter's frightened voice, a low rumble, then silence. Earth was gone. Not occupied. Not conquered. Gone. Hours passed. Elias remained at the viewport, silent as drifting ice. A planet had died. His planet. His family. And still, the Valari hadn't said a word. No demand. No message of surrender. Just fire. They hadn't come to rule. They'd come to erase. He thought of the past year, humanity's first contact with the Valari Empire. The golden-armored emissaries. The polite promises. The hollow treaties. The quiet contempt behind every alien smile. He should have known then. "They studied us," Elias muttered, voice low. "And they feared what we could become." Kale approached, hesitating at his side. "Orders, sir." Elias turned. His eyes, red, hollow, were colder than space itself. "We send a message. Not to them. To us." The command chamber dimmed as the transmission began. Elias stood before the relay's main console, face lit by the pulsing blue glow of the broadcast beacon. To every Terran outpost still listening. "This is Commander Elias Vorn. Earth is gone. We've been attacked. Not invaded. Annihilated." He paused. The silence pressed heavy. "We don't have fleets. We don't have alliances. But we have fire. We have rage. We are still here." His tone sharpened, every syllable honed like a blade. "They think we'll scatter. They expect fear. But we were born in war. We climbed out of ash before, once from our own mistakes. This time, it's theirs." Elias leaned closer to the console. "Listen to me. We don't surrender. We don't kneel. If they want the rest of us, they'll have to rip every colony from the cold vacuum, one by one. And we'll make sure they bleed for every inch." He ended the transmission with 3 final words. "Humanity endures. Fight." Later, in the dim corridors of the station, Elias sat alone beside an offline communications panel. His daughter's drawing still hung beside it, a messy crayon sketch of a starship and a family standing together. He touched the corner of the page, fingers trembling. For a moment, he wasn't a commander. He was a father, alone in the void. A soft knock echoed behind him. It was Lin Rakim, old friend, former fleet strategist. He looked aged beyond his years, stubble forming, eyes red from staring at war data. "I saw the broadcast," Lin said. Bold. "It wasn't a speech," Elias replied. "It was a promise." Lin sat beside him. "They'll hit Mars next. Then the moons. You know that." "I know," Elias said. "But they've made one mistake." Lin raised an eyebrow. "Just one?" "They left survivors." Lin nodded, grim. "We've got 12 frigates, mostly patched together. A third of them can't outrun a meteor. And no fleet admiral wants to sign on for a suicide campaign." "They won't have to," Elias said. He stood slowly, eyes hardened. "We won't fight like they expect. No ranks. No declarations. We go dark. Hit hard. Spread fear. Let the Valari look into the shadows and wonder which human is out there, waiting." Lin smiled faintly. "Terror tactics? You planning to become the monster they think we are?" Elias didn't answer at first. Then he said, quietly, "They showed us what mercy looks like in their empire." He looked back through the viewport, toward the dim smear of Earth's ashes. "Now they'll learn what vengeance looks like from ours." The Martian sky was the color of dried blood, dust dancing through the air like restless spirits. Commander Elias Vorn stepped out of the drop shuttle, boots crunching on red rock, and stared up at Olympus Base, a fortified crater city carved into the planet's largest extinct volcano. The last official Terran military stronghold. It felt more like a tomb. Inside, the hallways buzzed with low power and lower morale. Soldiers without orders. Civilians without direction. Families pretending Earth hadn't died. The war hadn't reached Mars yet, but the silence of Earth was louder than any cannon fire. Elias strode toward the War Council chamber, flanked by Lin Rakim and Dr. Nyla Rao. Lin looked haggard, coat frayed, beard untrimmed. Nyla was the opposite, sharp uniform, sharper eyes, her data tablet never leaving her grip. "We've got less than a fleet," Lin muttered. "And even that's generous." "We'll make do," Elias replied. "You always say that. One day, someone's going to call your bluff." Elias didn't break stride. "Then I'll bury them with it." The chamber lights flickered as 5 colony governors appeared via holoprojector, flickering, glitchy ghosts of the outer systems. Behind Elias stood a half-circle of surviving Terran military officers. The air was stale with tension. Governor Halleck of Titan leaned forward first, his tone bitter. "Why even bother with this meeting? We can't win. You saw what they did to Earth." Elias didn't blink. "And what happens if we do nothing? Hope Mars is less flammable." "We could negotiate," Governor Way of Europa said. "Send a delegation. Show submission. If we're quiet enough." Elias raised a hand. "They didn't talk to Earth. They turned it into glass." Silence. Then Governor Caro of Proxima Colony crossed his arms. "What do you propose?" "We're scattered. Underpowered. Outgunned. You want us to march into a suicide war?" "No," Elias said. "I want us to stop thinking like a government." Caro scoffed. "You've lost your mind." "No," Elias snapped. "I've lost my home. My daughter. My people. And so have you." He stepped into the center of the room, voice low, controlled. They expect protocol. Hierarchy. Ships lined up like toys waiting to be knocked over. But humans didn't survive Earth by playing fair. We survived by being vicious, unpredictable, and refusing to die quietly. He paused. We don't need to match them ship for ship. We need to break their rhythm. Hit their supply lines. Hijack their communications. Make them afraid to blink. Lin spoke next, arms crossed. We've identified a key opportunity. Valari convoys move through the Proxima Gate every 6 days. Minimal escort. Heavy logistics. If we strike there. Governor Caro interrupted. With what? Dusty cruisers and angry speeches? Nyla finally spoke. With what we've got. We retrofit, we code, we hijack. Half our fleet was built to mine asteroids. The other half? We make smarter. Faster. We use AI to mask signals. We don't fight their war. We drag them into ours. Governor Halleck frowned. You really think that's enough? Elias looked around the room, face hard. I don't think. I know. Because if we don't, then the next screams will be yours. He turned toward the holotable, pressing a button. The image shifted, Earth, a swirling sphere of fire and debris. This is what they do to planets. And still we hesitate? Still we ask if we should fight. Silence held for a long beat. Then Governor Caro sighed. You want one shot, Vorn? One ambush? Fine. But if you fail... Elias met his eyes. I won't. After the meeting, Elias leaned against a rail outside the chamber, staring down at the crater base. Rusted ships were being refitted. Engineers scrambled beneath flickering floodlights. The air tasted of recycled failure and sparks. Nyla approached, tablet in hand. We've got 10 ships we can prep. Maybe 12 if we cannibalize the freighters. Do it, Elias said. I'm rewriting their core AIs now. Stealth patterns, heat masking, command link deadlocks. He glanced at her. You always this optimistic? No, she said dryly. But I've stopped believing in despair. It's inefficient. Elias allowed a ghost of a smile. Remind me to promote you after the war. She raised an eyebrow. If there's anyone left to do the promoting. Later that night, Elias stood on the Martian ridge above Olympus base, alone beneath the stars. The red wind howled. He could almost hear Earth's oceans in the silence, the last fragments of memory scratching behind his eyes. A small holopad flickered to life in his hand. A family photo. His wife and daughter, smiling, frozen in time. He didn't speak. Didn't cry. Just stared. Footsteps approached. Lin. She'd be proud, Lin said quietly. Elias didn't look up. She shouldn't have to be. She should still be here. They stood there a long moment. Lin broke the silence. You think we actually have a chance? No, Elias said. Then he looked up. But they're about to find out we don't care. Space was quiet. But silence wasn't peace, it was a blade waiting to drop. Commander Elias Vorn stood inside the command deck of the Sparrow's Edge, eyes locked on the black void just beyond the Proxima Gate. His fingers rested lightly on the holo display, rotating the tactical model with slow precision. 12 ships, patchwork vessels of salvaged hulls and rerouted engines, hid within a dense asteroid cluster, silent and invisible. Behind him, Lin Rakim paced. Convoy ETA? Elias asked. Nyla Rao's voice crackled through the overhead comm. 40 seconds. All ships holding stealth parameters. No emissions. No chatter. Elias nodded. His pulse never rose. The quiet was familiar now, like the moment before a blade sank deep. The Valari convoy dropped out of warp with royal arrogance. 5 heavy freighters escorted by a single patrol destroyer. Silver hulls gleamed under Proxima's faint light. Their formation was loose, relaxed. No caution. No urgency. The enemy didn't even scan the rocks. Elias watched them drift into the trap, every second sharpening the moment like a scalpel. Then, "Now," he said. From the asteroids came death. 2 human strike frigates lunged from the shadows, engines flaring to life in a sudden burst of movement. Magrail cannons fired high-velocity tungsten slugs, silent, precise, brutal. The lead Valari freighter took 3 to the midsection before it even raised shields. Explosions burst across its spine. Air vented. Lights blinked out. Target 2 down, Rao reported. Strike confirmed. Minimal backscatter. The Valari destroyer spun in place, panicked and disorganized. It launched a flurry of plasma bolts toward the asteroids, blind and wide. Their targeting AI hadn't adapted fast enough. Too slow. Too clean. Elias leaned into the calm, "Send the ghost drones." Full swarm. Hundreds of fist-sized decoy bots, each broadcasting false signals, scattered like starlight. The Valari systems, unused to such chaos, began firing wildly into the empty dark. A second freighter exploded from internal overload, its core destabilized by a direct strike to its shielding node. "Contact on enemy destroyer," Lin called. "Shields weakening. They're trying to retreat." "Block warp," Elias said. "Drop the jammer." No escape. The Sparrow's edge released its prototype distortion pulse, an electromagnetic wave that garbled spatial coordinates just enough to scramble a warp sequence. It was untested, risky, and devastating. The Valari destroyer tried to shift. Its engines flared, and then it cracked in half. Cheers erupted on several Terran channels. Lin grinned. "We just took down a Valari warship with trash and borrowed software." Elias didn't smile. "We're not done." 2 remaining freighters drifted now, systems crippled. One began broadcasting a surrender beacon, universal frequency. "Do we accept it?" Lin asked. Elias stared at the projection of the crippled ships. "Board 1, he said. "Take their bridge. Leave the other. Let it run." "You want them to spread the story," Lin said, catching on. "No," Elias corrected. "I want their empire to feel what fear tastes like." Inside the captured Valari freighter, smoke clung to the hulls like ghosts. Human Marines in matte black armor swept room by room, methodical and silent. No gunfire, most of the crew had surrendered, stunned that they'd lost to Earthborn scavengers. In the control chamber, a young Valari officer stood trembling, weapon shaking in his 3-fingered hands. He stared at Elias with wide, slitted eyes. "You're not supposed to be capable of this," the alien said, voice high and uneven. You're not even bred for war." Elias took the weapon from him gently and set it aside. "No," he said. "We're bred for survival. And now we remember how." Back on Mars, the broadcast spread faster than light. Footage from the ambush. The detonation of the Valari destroyer. The surrender. The captured ships. Earth's fractured colonies, once fractured and quiet, lit up with signals. Volunteers surged into resistance networks. Engineers reactivated dormant fleet yards. Hackers took down Volari surveillance nodes in occupied sectors. Nyla stood at a console, reviewing real-time data from 6 colonies. "You've started a chain reaction," she said. "Recruitment just tripled. Outer moons are declaring independence. Volari command nodes are overloaded with incident reports." Lin raised a brow. "Think they're taking us seriously now?" Elias folded his arms. "They won't admit it. Not yet. But they felt it." He tapped the image of the Volari warship's burning husk. "That was the moment we stopped being prey." Elsewhere, far across the stars, Archprince Zelta Noris stood before a cathedral-like war chamber aboard the Valsaruk, the imperial flagship of the Volari Ascendancy. Advisors surrounded him, tall, robed, proud. One knelt before him now, trembling. "The convoy was completely destroyed, my lord. We believe human rebels are responsible. They used unconventional tactics." "Stop," Noris said. He stepped forward, slowly descending the stairs of his throne. "Unconventional?" The advisor nodded. "Yes, High Commander." Noris leaned close. His voice dropped to a whisper. "You mean primitive?" The advisor swallowed. "Yes, my lord." Noris straightened, eyes glowing with restrained contempt. "Burn Proxima," he said. "Burn everything near it. Show them what it means to wake a sleeping empire." On Mars, Elias watched as new ships entered the orbital dock, civilians, freighters, outdated cruisers, all requesting upgrades, weapons, orders. The war had begun. Not a war for survival. A war to be remembered. The smoke hadn't even cleared from the ruins of Proxima Station when the Volari response arrived. They came not as soldiers but as executioners. 2 Dread-class warships. 30 escort craft. A wave of plasma fire rained down on Saturn's Titan outpost, home to 48,000 civilians and 0 weapon systems. The colony didn't resist. It couldn't. There was no warning, no chance. Titan vanished beneath a cloud of irradiated flame. The attack lasted 6 minutes. When the news reached Mars, Elias didn't speak. He stood in Olympus Command Center, jaw clenched, fists trembling at his sides. Behind him, the holographic image of Titan's destruction flickered in endless loop, structures melting, people running, then silence. No survivors. No messages. No pretense of military value. Just punishment. Lin approached slowly. They wanted to make an example. Elias didn't move. They did. He turned, face unreadable. "Now we will." A day later, Olympus base overflowed. The uprising had spread like fire across the colonies. What was once a loose scatter of frightened survivors had become something more, resistance cells unifying, war factories revived, dead systems reactivated. Even fringe settlements, ones that had rejected Earth's authority before, sent ships. Humans weren't united by politics anymore. They were united by rage. In a hangar filled with engineers and old war hulls, Nyla crouched beside a drone chassis, adjusting its power core. A young technician looked on. "These things weren't built for combat," he said. "They're miners." "They are now," Nyla replied, tightening a bolt. "We've rewritten the guidance software, rewired the power distribution, and fitted the shells with micro-explosives. Smart enough to track a moving cruiser, dumb enough to follow a flare if needed." The technician nodded, quiet admiration in his expression. "Scary." Nyla glanced up, a faint smile on her face. Not yet. But we're getting there. In the war room, Elias stared at the next map, Alpha Centauri. Human population, over 1.3 million. Light defenses. A prime Valari target. We can't defend that many people, Lynn said. We don't have the ships. And it's too far to evacuate. Elias exhaled through his nose. Then we don't defend it like a fortress. Lynn looked up. You mean? We bait them. Let them come. Then close the jaws. Nyla entered, wiping her hands on a grease-stained cloth. If we time it right, we can deploy the drones inside Centauri's debris field. Turn the whole region into a trap grid. But we'll need a command relay and proximity control. Elias didn't hesitate. I'll lead the operation. Lynn frowned. You're too valuable to risk. That's exactly why I have to go. This isn't about a single battle, it's about showing them we're not afraid to bleed. I want them to look at Centauri and wonder what else we're willing to burn. Nyla nodded slowly. I'll prep the swarm. We'll have one shot. Elias glanced between them both. Then let's make it count. That night, in his quarters, Elias sat alone again, same holopad, same family photo. But something in his posture had changed. No longer hunched in grief. Just still. The door hissed open. Nyla stepped inside, carrying a tablet and a bottle of dark, bitter Martian whiskey. No updates, she said, setting the tablet down. No new threats. Just silence. Feels fake, Elias muttered. She poured 2 glasses. That's war. Loud, then quiet, then loud again. He took the drink, let it sit in his hand. Do you think we're becoming what they are? She tilted her head. You mean brutal? Merciless. I mean monsters. Nyla stared at the glass. They erased a city full of children. That line crossed itself. Elias looked at her. So we burn their cities? We don't burn civilians, she said calmly. We burn empires. There's a difference. He nodded once. Then, quietly, not always. Elsewhere in the galaxy, aboard the Valsuruk, Archprince Zelta Noris sat atop a throne of woven starlight and bone. The walls of his chamber pulsed with alien energy, alive, humming with status feeds and tactical readouts. He sipped a clear viscous fluid from a tall obsidian cup as a scout commander knelt before him, head bowed. My lord, the scout began. Human forces have grown. Their colonies are mobilizing faster than anticipated. We've detected unusual signal patterns, drones, cloaked transmissions, misdirection tactics. Highly irregular. Noris said nothing. They've also begun targeting logistics lines. We've lost 6 transports in the last 10 cycles. Still nothing. The scout hesitated. They're becoming coordinated. Noris rose slowly, regal robes dragging across the floor like mist. They are insects, he said. Insects sting when dying. The scout remained silent. Noris walked to a projection sphere and gestured. Alpha Centauri lit up. Prepare the culling fleet. We erase this world before the infection spreads. He turned to the scout, voice calm but deadly. And tell the others. I do not want a war. I want silence. Back on Mars, Elias stood atop Olympus Command once more. Before him stood rows of Marines, engineers, pilots, hackers. Some wore armor. Others still wore civilian coats. But all of them had the same eyes. Eyes that had seen the edge of extinction and chosen not to die. He didn't give them a grand speech. He just said, "They killed Titan." Silence. "They're coming for Centauri." A pause. "And when they get there, we'll be waiting." The sky above Alpha Centauri shimmered with distant stars, calm, cold, indifferent. Beneath that silence, humanity waited in the dark. Elias stood aboard the Aegis Revenant, flanked by tactical screens, his uniform sealed, visor down. Outside the forward viewport, the colony spun slowly beneath them. Peaceful. Unaware. "Status?" he asked. "Valari fleet incoming," Nyla's voice crackled over comms. 49 vessels. Dreadnought in center. "They're not masking signatures, they're daring us." "Let them." Lynn's voice cut in. "Drone grid is deployed. Charge parameters active. Detonation thresholds armed. Ready on your mark." Elias exhaled slowly, fingers gripping the edge of the command rail. "All ships, dark mode. Radio silence. Hold positions. No one fires until I say." In orbit, the Valari war fleet approached like a tidal wave of midnight steel and bioglass. Their formation was precise, almost ceremonial. Dreadnought Valsaruk sat at the vanguard, engines glowing with pale ultraviolet light. Inside the Valari command core, Archprince Zelta Noris stood surrounded by flowing streams of holographic data. His features were serene. Confident. "Scan for resistance," he ordered. "Any signs of organized defense?" "None, my lord." "Human fleet is silent." "Colony scans passive." "No planetary shields detected." He nodded once. "Begin cleansing sequence." In the cold vacuum beyond the colony's orbit, thousands of objects floated in silence. Mining drones reprogrammed into autonomous bombs. Smart enough to track, dumb enough to obey. And then the bait arrived. A decoy ship, unarmed, broadcasting civilian distress calls, darted past the Valari vanguard. It moved erratically, mimicking panic. The Valari escort ships pursued. The drones activated. The first explosion split the dark like lightning. The pursuing Valari vessels vanished in a cascade of concussive fire. The surrounding drones followed, triggering a chain reaction of blasts that tore through the rear flank of the formation. On the Aegis Revenant, alarms blinked. "They bit," Nyla said. "Backline down." Confirming 7 ships destroyed. 2 disabled. Multiple shockwave impacts across fleet. "Move the hammer," Elias ordered. Out of the asteroid shadows, 4 human corvettes burst forward, fast, agile, retrofitted with railgun batteries and flak dispersers. "Target the escorts. Disrupt formation." Herd them toward the grid. The human ships struck like wolves, weaving between shockwaves, firing precision blasts. Valari formations fractured. The dreadnought hesitated. Noris narrowed his eyes. "Primitive tactics," he murmured. "But clever. Should we withdraw?" He didn't answer. Then, almost calmly, "No. Bring them down." In orbit, the battle became chaos. The Aegis Revenant unleashed its full armament. Railguns shrieked, slicing through vacuum. EMP mines drifted, detonating on proximity. The Valari, unaccustomed to asymmetrical warfare, began to falter. Lynn's voice came through the comms. "Elias, the grid's holding, but we're burning through charges fast." "They're adapting. Drones won't hold forever." "Then we won't either," Elias replied. "Send the second wave." Cargo pods burst open, dozens of humanoid drone fighters, salvaged, armed, and reprogrammed, poured into the fray. And among them, Elias's personal squad. The Revenants. He led them himself. They launched into 0G. Elias felt the weightlessness wrap around him, the chill of space seeping into the edges of his suit. Targets lit up his HUD. One after another. Revenants pushed to the dreadnought. We clip the head, the body dies. Explosions lit the sky around him as he flew. Volari interceptors swarmed, but the Revenants moved like ghosts, darting past defenses, guided by grit, hate, and instinct. At the center of it all, the Valsaruk loomed. Inside the dreadnought, Norris watched as human forces drew closer. Primitive fools, he spat. They throw themselves at gods. His bridge officers began to hesitate. Something had shifted. Why do they keep coming? One asked. Norris turned slowly, eyes cold. Because we allowed them to believe they could win. He raised his command scepter. Fire the planetary cleansing beam. Show them hope is an illusion. The dreadnought's underside split open. Energy gathered at its core, enough to crack continents. But before it could fire, something struck the ventral power conduit. Elias, riding a burning debris chunk, planted an explosive charge directly into the ship's main coil. The beam died. Now! Elias shouted. Across the grid, Lin detonated the remaining drones in synchronized waves. The explosion shattered the dreadnought's outer armor. Nyla's voice came through, "You've got one shot at the core." Elias flew through fire, his armor burning, systems failing. He reached the breach, a molten chamber of pulsing energy. The core glowed like a star. He pulled the last fusion warhead from his harness. Set timer, 20 seconds. He looked around, at the design, the alien perfection, the arrogant geometry. "This is for Titan," he whispered. He launched the warhead, turned, and ejected. Behind him, the dreadnought bloomed into flame. Not an explosion. An obliteration. The core imploded, then reversed, shredding the ship from within. The shockwave hit him like a sledgehammer. His systems went dark. Then silence. He woke up in a med bay. Blinking lights. IVs. Nyla asleep in a chair nearby. He turned slightly. Pain flooded his spine. Lin appeared beside him, grinning. "You lived." "How many?" he croaked. "3 ships escaped," Lin said. "The rest are gone." Elias tried to speak, failed. Nyla stirred. She leaned in, gently touched his shoulder. "You won, Commander." He shook his head. "No. We survived." In the days that followed, no more Volari fleets arrived. Norris was dead. The survivors of Alpha Centauri buried their dead and rebuilt. Across the systems, colonies began to fortify, not just with weapons, but with purpose. Humanity had lost Earth. Lost billions. But they had proven something in blood and fire. They were not prey. They were not weak. They were not afraid. A message was broadcast into deep space from Olympus Command, short, encrypted, sent in every direction. To all civilizations watching. We don't seek war. But if you come for us, know this. Humanity remembers. Humanity learns. And when we rise together.